And good evening. I am Dr. Dan coming at you live with another episode of What the Health. This week, we are going to be discussing a little bit about blood work and knowing your numbers and what different tests that I recommend the people who work with me to take, and what those tests should actually say about whether you're healthy or whether it's time to start looking at your health a little bit more seriously. So every night coming at you, or I'm sorry, every Monday coming at you live with a new health question, going over the latest and greatest and tried and true health trends in order to live a salutogenic lifestyle. Live standing for learning, implementing, venerating the process, and empowering and enlightening others. I am going to go ahead and jump right in here talking about blood work and knowing your numbers. There are so many different numbers and ranges that we look at when it comes to what you actually find in your bloodstream. And if you have listened to me before, or look at some of the topics that I've covered, I always go back to the understanding that our body is self-regulating. So what does that mean? Self-regulation comes down to the fact that we all have a normal resting range, or a normal healthy range, for all the different biochemical reactions, all the different physiological processes that go on in our body. I'm just going to use one example: heart rate. Okay, many people have a resting heart rate anywhere from 50, maybe up to 60, 70 beats per minute, and that range will fluctuate a little bit up and down around that resting heart rate. If I get up right now and take a couple laps around my house, then everyone knows that your heart rate is going to elevate. It's going to go up from its normal range. And then when I sit back down and I rest the exertion and allow my body to recover, it's going to come back down into its normal resting range, that 50 to 70 beats per minute. So I can do that without ever thinking about it. Okay, it happens automatically in the body. It happens by way of the autonomic nervous system. That's the portion of the nervous system that controls and coordinates all those functions that we never think about. And a lot of those functions are the levels that we find in our bloodstream. So whenever we look at our overall health and well-being, many of the different chemicals, the molecules that we find in our bloodstream, we have found over years and years of research and understanding, through science, that a healthy individual should have a certain normal range of these different chemicals and chemical processes in their blood. So we're able to track those and help people to understand: are they already very healthy, and how do we keep them that way? Or are they on the verge of having some diagnosed disease? Or are they healthy but maybe trending in the wrong direction? Okay? As I always tell people, I am not a medical doctor. I do not diagnose or treat disease, but I do have a very solid understanding and a lot of these basic blood tests and the normal ranges that they should be in, and how you can actually affect these blood tests, not with medication, because I do not put people on nor take people off medication, but how you can affect these blood tests by daily habitual behavioral life changes and pattern changes, so that you can actually get those numbers trending in a healthy direction and keep them that way. So when we're talking about some of these blood numbers that we look at, one of the most important ones that we're coming to understand is a resting insulin level, and that is very much in conjunction with a glucose level. Now, diabetes is a significant disease, and it is on the rise in the United States. And the level of diabetes is actually a fasting glucose level above 125. And that's taken over multiple measurements. But if that fasting glucose level is over 125, you are actually considered a type 2 diabetic. Now, if the normal range, what they consider a healthy range for a fasting glucose level, I mean, you fasted for 12 hours, what they consider a healthy glucose range is 100 and below. Okay, so here's where we start to get into the gray area, okay? 125 and above, you're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. You actually have a diagnosed disease of type 2 diabetes. But let's say that you have a glucose level of 99. Well, guess what? You would be considered a normal level and maybe be considered healthy, but you're only 1 point away from being on the verge of pre-diabetic, which is 100 to 125, and could be on your way to 125 and above. So we have to understand that just because you're just outside that normal range, you could be on a very high level, borderline, for, I don't like to use the word disaster, but borderline, heading in a wrong or difficult direction. So when we look at these normal ranges or a healthy range, we have to understand that it's not just 1 point is going to put you into a disease state, or 1 point below is going to be healthy. No, there's a gray area between there, and we have to understand that if you're trending, let's say your normal blood glucose level, was in the 80s, for years and years and years, and all of a sudden, now you're up in the high 90s or low 100s, you might not be diagnosed a diabetic yet, but we can stop it and catch that behavioral pattern and start to understand why it is trending in that direction and come up with ways to make corrections before they want to start putting you on medication or eventually giving you insulin. So we also measure insulin levels. There's still a lot more research coming out on that, but that is something that we are looking at more closely in relationship to blood glucose levels. Another test that we look at and is very, very common are cholesterol levels. And I can tell you, I do not get my information from the American Heart Association and those numbers when they come to it. If you want to really dive into cholesterol numbers, I'll post a link to our latest blog that we discussed on cholesterol numbers. But I've been talking about this for years, and I know there are many health practitioners that have talked about this for decades longer than I have, in understanding the normal healthy relationship between HDL and LDL, what is known in mainstream media as good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. I don't even like those terms because it's not actually measuring that at all, but I will post a link down below to cholesterol levels and what they mean to you, but that is something that we do monitor closely. But again, unlike the the medical doctor who would quickly prescribe a statin medication, we're going to look at what are behavioral patterns, lifestyle factors that are impacting those, and what can we do to reverse them before they lead to other more serious illnesses down the road. The other thing we look at that are closely tied with cholesterol levels are your triglyceride or triglycerol levels in the blood, and again, that's kind of measuring certain fat metabolism that is going on. So also very important from a lifestyle, an exercise and a diet perspective. So we want to look at that. C-reactive protein is another one. That is measuring more of an overall inflammatory level. It's a molecule that's made in the liver, and when there's an inflammatory level in the body or a chronic disease process going on in the body, that C-reactive protein level can be getting very high. So that's another blood marker that we look at, and again, not making any significant we're not making any hey, you need to go on this medication because of that. No, we're making, lifestyle changes to affect that level. And again, monitor that level to help you understand how your body, is it trending in a more inflammatory state, or is it actually recovering from a chronic inflammatory state, so that you are moving towards a more healthy level. And finally, we also look at vitamin D as another blood marker. Especially we are looking in the, we're in the, Ohio River Valley region, southwestern Pennsylvania, and much of the northeastern area, we have lots and lots of cloudy days, especially this time of year when we are in winter and we're all inside. Those vitamin D levels are chronically low in a lot of people, and the more and more research that's coming out about those chronically low vitamin D levels, especially in the blood, it has a massive impact and tie in to other chronic diseases, especially in the autoimmune disease realm. So I do know many of the people that work with me. When we see a low vitamin D level, we recommend a good quality vitamin D supplement that can help to boost that level. And then, of course, the most natural way to get it is to get out into the sunshine, but obviously there's much of our environment that prevents that, especially in this area. So those are the blood markers that we look at. Again, there is a normal healthy range, but helping to understand: are you low normal? Are you high normal? Are you trending in a direction of going outside a normal range? And what can we do about it to prevent it from ever getting to an unhealthy level where more serious measures may be needed? So ultimately, that is the self-regulation that the body does every day. It monitors those levels, and it can do something to some extent in helping those levels go up and down because it knows how to self-regulate, because everything is constantly being monitored by the nervous system. So understanding that we don't necessarily have to do an outside intervention, to break those patterns, but other than simple lifestyle changes that we can do, and continue to monitor those and make sure we're trending in the right direction. So those are the 5 blood markers that we look at very significantly and regularly. Glucose, and then tied into insulin, the cholesterol, triglyceride level, C-Reactive Protein, and vitamin D. So if you'd like to learn more, jump on our What the Health group, where we constantly dive into further discussion. I thank you so much for stopping by this evening, and I will see you next Monday at 9 p.m. I want you to take care and live a salutogenic life. See you next time.